Hello, my name is Sonali and I welcome you back to another episode of Around the World in 7 Days. It is said that shared culture, shared incident, and shared history bring each other closer. In India-Canada relations, we can find a glimpse of the closeness that has grown because of this common heritage. Both the countries, victims of exploitation by the same colonial power, were brought closer by their common history of exploitation and the struggle to get out of it. Today, elements of Indian separatism can be seen on many occasions in Canada, but this same Canada once played an important role in the Indian freedom struggle. The historical relationship between the two countries begins in 1858. Since both Canada and India were under British Crown rule, many former soldiers of the British Indian Army moved to Canada in search of a new life. In the late 1860s, the British settled large numbers of Indians in British Columbia to work in the booming lumber industry. The number of Indians immigrating to Canada increased dramatically in the mid-20th century due to the Canadian government implementing less restrictive immigration laws. With the increase of Indians in Canada, their struggle for Indian independence began. Although the Ghadar Party was founded in San Francisco, California in 1913, a large number of its members were Punjabi Sikh immigrants to Canada. Not only this, Canada was one of the first countries to recognize the Indian National Congress and its objectives. During the Second World War, Canada also provided important materials like food, clothing, and ammunition to India. Canada also provided financial assistance to the Indian independence movement, and Canadian citizens also raised funds to support the cause. In the 1940s, Canadian Prime Minister William Lyon Mackenzie King publicly expressed his support for Indian independence and called for a peaceful transition to self-rule. In 1947, the Canadian Parliament unanimously passed a resolution expressing support for India's independence. This resolution was a strong show of solidarity with Indians and their struggle for freedom. But recently, a new rift has emerged in India-Canada relations. On one hand, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has expelled India's top diplomat, blaming the Indian government for the murder of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. While on the other hand, India has also ordered a Canadian diplomat to leave the country. At the same time, Canada has also put an end to the ongoing talks regarding a free trade agreement. Even during the G20 conference held in India, there was no warmth in India-Canada relations. In such a situation, it is believed that India-Canada relations are going through a very tense phase. Questions might be coming in your mind that how did this partnership turn into such a tense situation? Let us understand this. Diplomatic relations between the two countries began in the year 1947 with the independence of India. In the year 1949, Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru further strengthened these relations by visiting Canada. Canada's aid program to India began in 1951 and grew significantly under the Colombo Plan. Canada provided food aid, project financing, and technical assistance to India. However, India-Canada relations saw a decline due to India's Smiling Buddha nuclear test in 1974. Due to result of the 1985 bombing of an Air India flight by Sikh separatists, Canada and India issued a bilateral anti-terrorism dialogue and expanded relations. Today, India-Canada are cooperating in all areas like nuclear, science, technology, defense, agriculture, energy, education, information and communication technology. Since 2018, India has been the largest source country for international students in Canada. At the same time, India was the 10th largest trading partner of Canada in the year 2022, while today about 600 Canadian companies are working in India. Canada is the largest destination for people of Indian origin. About 4% of Canadians are of Indian origin, while according to the 2021 census, there are 7,70,000 Sikhs in Canada. In other words, there is a large population of Sikhs in Canada. It is said that in 1897, Queen Victoria had invited a contingent of British Indian soldiers to London to join the Diamond Jubilee celebrations. A group of mounted soldiers was then en route to British Columbia to accompany the Empress of India. One of these soldiers were Risaldar Major Kesar Singh. He was the first Sikh to shift to Canada. The process of migration of Sikhs from India to Canada started from here. However, later attempts to forcibly deport Sikhs from Canada to India were followed by the Komagata Maru episode of 1914. In which at least 19 people died. In 2016, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau even apologized for this incident in the House of Commons. When the Liberal Party government was formed in Canada in the 1960s, it proved to be historic for the Sikhs as well. The Canadian federal government changed immigration rules and opened the door to accepting diversity. The effect of this was that the population of people of Indian origin increased rapidly. Today, Punjabi is the third most popular language in Canada, while 1.3% of the total population of Canada understands and speaks Punjabi. Not only this, in the elections held in Canada in 2019, more than 15 Sikh leaders were elected to the Canadian Parliament. After India, the largest population of Sikhs also lives there. Due to such a large population, they have gradually not only gained political dominance there, but have also emerged strong economically. In such a situation, these Indian Sikh immigrants have the power to deeply influence the politics of Canada. This is the reason that as their influence is increasing there, their struggle in Canada regarding the demand for a separate Khalistan is also increasing. The continuous increase in such incidents in recent times is not a good sign for India's security. The Canadian government is being accused of supporting them. Some pro-Khalistani leaders have also joined the Canadian Council of Ministers. In such a situation, India's concern is justified. The pro-Khalistan movement in Canada is so vocal that even a referendum has been held regarding a separate country of Khalistan for the Sikhs. In the 1980s, India saw Punjab destabilized by the Khalistani movement. It would not want this to happen again. The recent attack on the Indian High Commission and several diplomats in Canada is deepening India's concern. Whereas Canada alleges that the recent deaths of many prominent Khalistani leaders are taking place at the behest of the Indian government, whereas India continues to deny this. There is resentment in India and Canada regarding this. The government there is being accused of ignoring India's concerns due to internal politics. This is the reason why when the Prime Minister of Canada came to India to participate in the G20 conference, the issue of Sikh separatist activities and attacks on Indian diplomats was raised in the meeting. Canada expressed displeasure about this, and this is also believed to be the reason behind Canada stopping the free trade agreement between the two countries. Looking at the recent times, many analysts say that all this is politically motivated. This is being done to increase their popularity in Canada. But these sources will not last long because international relations cannot remain influenced by internal politics for long. Both the countries have maintained a long partnership which will continue in future also. Canada's economic situation has been deeply affected after the COVID era. At the same time, India is also engaged in increasing its trade agreements. In such a situation, it is expected that both the countries can come together once again considering their economic interest. So that's all in today's episode. See you in the next episode. But before that, let's note down a question based on today's story. Throwing light on the historical relations between India and Canada, explain the situation due to which relations have soured.